Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another movie review. Dare I say, one of the closeout films of the 2024 year. So I am excited to talk about Mufasa the Lion King. Now, Mufasa the Lion King, whether you know it or not, is a prequel to the original Lion King. I mean, technically the original to the 2019 live action, CGI live action rendition of the Lion King. And the placeholder for this is basically telling the story of what we know of Mufasa and what we know of Scar. And their story, their journey that got them to be who they became in the original Lion King. So I am not going to spoil anything. This is a non-spoiler review, but I do have some assistants here. So I'm going to bring on my co-hosts, Jorge and Mike. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on?
Going on?
So before we talk about this at all, I feel like I want to tease everybody really quick. Going into this film, what did you think this was going to be? And I don't know how you felt about the 2019 live action version, but what did you think this was going into it? Brief summary of what you thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, a story we didn't need or didn't ask for. That's the biggest thing that everybody literally said when this movie was announced. Like, do we really need this? Who asked for this? Right. And listen, they skidded by with the first one because it made $1 billion, I believe. So it's like they're like, hey, we're gonna capitalize again, but then expand the lore of Mufasa. But at the same time, they again, which I'll say this in my review, I wish they would have gone if they wanted to do a story with Mufasa that they can go back to actual 2D animation. Taking a step back is not necessarily you regressing; is actually you respecting the craft that created the freaking foundation you stand on. And the anime,
Okay. That's good. That's good.
but yes,
That's what I know.
sorry. But anyway, yes, but luckily I was wrong. Well, actually, we actually did need this story.
Dang it, Mike. I was. God, you messed up. Jorge, can you?
I'll keep it on script.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I came into this blind. I will be brutally honest. I did not know much about it. After the last Disney animated movie, which crushed me a little bit, I had zero hope for this movie. The only hope that I had was that Lin-Manuel Miranda was doing the music in this one. And yeah, so I came into this one super blind. And I actually, it's weird. The live action for this Lion King, I don't want to say I didn't care for. I didn't see the big need for it. Like I actually enjoyed the Will Smith like Aladdin movie. The live action for this one, it was, I mean, it was good. It was there, but it's not like I would always go back to the animated version before I would ever think about doing the live action. But no, this one was good. It was fun.
All right. So now that we've said it, so how did we feel about the film? Because I think unanimously we enjoyed it. I don't know where to kind of put it. Like it wasn't. I did not anticipate one caring about a story that not only was a prequel, but was kind of like this rediscovering arc because the film, without spoiling anything, it's not exactly a prequel either.
Yeah.
The way that they do the storytelling, it goes and weaves between time. And I did not anticipate that. So you're gonna get some callbacks. You're gonna like every character you saw from the 2019 version and every actor that was associated with that, in some way, shape, or form, are going to be connected to this film, which is very surprising. But what I did not anticipate was enjoying and being connected and caring about the progression of the story that I already know where it's going to lead. That's hard to do. I mean, the last Disney movie that I felt like did that well was Cruella. And I did not care when Cruella came out. I was like, why do I care about a Cruella? But it was storytelling 101 is making you care, entertaining you, and progressing the story. And I don't know. That was my take on this. What did you guys think about Mufasa?
Yeah, I think I would echo exactly what you said. I think this was such an unexpected delight. Um to the point where, I mean, from the get-go, the first song, like I was bobbing my head to it, and like tapping my feet, just it's it was very catchy. And not in like a gimmicky type of way. Um but it was, for me, I was just so impressed with how well and how impactful this story was in defining the characters that we're used to seeing, like today, as like Mufasa and Scar, and you truly understand their backstory, and you truly understand kind of their loyalties and all that. It was very fascinating for me. Like I completely, dare I say, like, really enjoyed this. And I think you bring up a good point, Sam, where it's like the storytelling in this is so well done, where
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
literally care for these characters in such a different way than you normally would. So yeah, for me, I loved it.
Yeah. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, as I said, like, again, not the story that we asked for, but I think it's the story that we need. Um, I think that again, I don't feel like my time was wasted watching this movie, unlike with the first one, where I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. It was actually a pleasant surprise. I didn't want to say I had low expectations, thinking that this was going to be bad. I just think like, oh, it's just going to be decent, whatever. But I actually found this a really, really good story. And I wish, again, hopefully that have had legs for it to have impact for audiences. I don't know how that's going to go, just because how stacked we are getting to the end of the year, in terms of like releases. But with the story, again, I thought the performances here, particularly with the lead actors, with Aaron, again, this whole year it's been Aaron's year, and I feel like, again, you're seeing just his foundation as an actor as he's just kind of stepping into more of these leadership type roles. But in the same way, having respect for the character, that he's taking, and not not trying to take his own approach to it and be reckless with it in terms of his performance. He knows what come before, and this film acknowledges what comes before. Again, this character and this franchise has a staple for a lot of us in many different generations in our lives, right? And with people, kids, adults, kids who are now adults, etc. But I think, again, for this film, it also plays out in terms of they tackle very serious issues, but still, like, I can have, like, have kids watch this movie, but also have an adult watch this too, and both feel like, hey, this is a serious moment happening here, but at the same time, it's still like kid, friendly, to a point where it's like both a parent and an adult and a child can have a good time watching this, and both can take something differently out of it. And I think that, again, is this time and age, with films and stuff, it's not saying it's rare, the fact that they have that combination, but it's also like you strike gold when you have that combination, in terms of what two different types of audiences can receive watching this, from different age demographics. But yeah, I think, again, this is also a story I feel like we kind of, as we're in this age of seeing people seeing legacy characters and seeing, oh, this is what came before, like Wicked, like previous, like Cruella, like let's see, like Maleficent or something like that, right? And we're now seeing more humanization and background of these characters and trying to fully understand them, like how did they get to this point,
Yep.
and stuff, not being cliche, realize you have some sympathy for characters like the Scar and stuff like that. So so yeah, I think, again, I really enjoyed this film, and how particularly the director, how he structured, in terms of story beats happening, and also using time jumps and flashbacks, and cohesively together.
Yeah, I think one of the things that enticed me about this film that I needed to check out, because for us, it's voting season, so we wanted to make sure we check out every film. And one of the things that I knew, what I anticipated, if anything, is a visual effects. I didn't anticipate music. I didn't anticipate directing. I didn't anticipate voice acting. But I think let's stick to the visual effects and the soundtrack. The thing I'll say about this film, visually, this looks better than the first one. And I
Yeah.
think it's because of the direction. when you go and you try to recreate something, you lose everything, in my personal opinion, because it's kind of like you're trying to make a comparison to one of the greatest 2D hand drawn animations of all time. And you're trying to replicate it because people's interpretation is like, okay, their mouths aren't even the same. How do I feel like this person has a soul? They find ways, even if it's camera angles. There was one moment where like the Cubs were running and it was like a POV shot and he was like freaking out. And then there was another moment where there was like a depth of field, like it was going shooting sideways, and then it's a long drawn out shot to like a waterfall. Just great angles, great storytelling, and great direction, along with visual effects. Because the thing about it is that there were moments in this film that I forgot this was VFX. This is all VFX. This is not real. And I think the way that they direct it, even like when they get to like the mountain areas and in the snow, like it just seems natural. And I was just so impressed by that. But I think, and I'll let you guys both talk towards the visual effects and the soundtrack and even the score, is that when you have a good production design and you also have equally somebody that knows music and knows how to connect with you on an emotional level and it's emotionally resonant, like Lin-Manuel knows how to do, it just functions perfectly. And I think that there's another animated film that came out this year, The Wild Robot, that has probably the best soundtrack this year, and it is emotionally connecting. And I think that they find certain songs here that connect us to these characters. But I think because these songs that are being played are not just songs that are random. The songs, if you listen to the lyrics, are telling the characters, are talking about what they want or what they feel and what they need. And that is classic Disney, which is great. We haven't gotten that in a while. But do you guys want to talk towards the VFX and then soundtrack?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think VFX wise, some of the things that really threw me off in the movie while watching it was the rain. Anytime there was rain on the screen, it felt like this movie would be really good at 4D. In the way that the rain was falling, and you can kind of see it on their whiskers and everything. The amount of detail that they put towards it was beautiful and like phenomenal. And I will agree, the way that they did some of the shots, especially some of the chasing shots, like between when like I was about to call him Simba, when Mufasa and Scar were like little cubs, those little like chase scenes where the camera, it almost feels like it's a drone. And I think the best way I can explain it, because I'm into cars so much, it's like if you're looking at a drifting event, or even like a race event, and you kind of see a drone kind of flying in and out of the cars, and you're kind of seeing everything from all these sorts of different angles. That's what you're getting with this, only with these animals, which I thought was really well done. And I do agree with you where the songs attach so well to the actual characters. Like one of the songs immediately coming out of this, like Brother, was phenomenal. And you kind of see what Scar wanted, like what he's always yearned for, and how he's, like what he wants. And then midway through the movie, you have Bye Bye, which I thought was a great song, and just the way that it was done. And what I appreciate is that you can listen to the songs and it literally puts you back in the movie immediately. Which Disney hasn't been able to do that here recently in a while, I think. Done it effectively, I should say. In this, just about every single song, because on the way home from seeing the movie, we were playing the soundtrack on the way home, and you literally can almost visualize the movie through the songs, and you can visualize the personalities, and you hear like what they want or what they're after, or what their like goal is. And it's really neat. So for me, yeah, I think visually and audibly, this movie was beautifully done, for sure.
Yeah. Mike, you want to add anything?
Yeah, in terms like with the music and visual effects here, because again, that was one of my criticisms just with this entire like property is just like, hey, this could have been 10 times better if you reduce, actually going back to the OG 2D animation. But again, that's just a fan of me, just as my just graphic design background and stuff of those animations that I feel like I really enjoy, but also I attach Lion King to that type of animation, right? But with this again, there's scenes here you forget, like, hey, this is it's just groundbreaking in terms of how far we come from in terms of visual effects and everything, but also at the same time, like, even though unlike the first one, I felt that certain scenes felt limited emotionally, this I felt all the emotion. And I think 'cause now that I got used to what to expect just from with the lion face movements and everything like that, that it didn't really take me out of the story that much, because again, and this film really doesn't focus on singing that much. It focused more on the story, like what's happening with the development of these characters and who they become. That's really the main focus, and with that, it delivers. Uh, fully in terms of how they execute it, and with other like secondary characters they have here as well to build up the foundation and everything. Again, I think this is a story that I think will stand a test of time, because now we get to see how it's not just a traditional like origin story of how someone becomes king and stuff, like, because we've seen it before. And you might have some people that might say, oh, well, we've seen this before. Like, yeah, you've seen this archetype of seeing how someone become their evolved self, but we haven't seen a story like this before, especially with these characters that we've known for like decades at this point, and now we see them with a new lens.
Yeah, I mean, I think the roundup for this is to kind of ground it on how these actors, these voice actors, truly immerse themselves into these characters in ways that we've never seen before, and then Barry and how he established the story. The story of this is actually so well done, and I didn't anticipate the approach, and I'm trying to be careful because I can't spoil it. I didn't anticipate getting a non-linear story, but every time that you're getting pulled in and out, you're giving small pockets of time to make it digestible for the kids emotionally, right? You're getting fed, because I mean, these movies aren't necessarily, for our age group, but they're finding ways of making it palatable by adding comedic and emotionally resonant, letting them take their time to tell the story. And I think that if you remember any of you guys that's ever looked at Never Ending Story, it's like that. I swear, it's almost exactly the same, because Never Ending Story always like, hey, no, granddad, da, 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 da. And they do it in a very interesting way, because there's two different lessons being told, and we're really uncovering how he became the king. And I love that, because we know who Mufasa is, but we don't know what his cornerstone is. And I think the thing to add off on that is that Aaron Pierre, of course, is a beast. But if Calvin was not who he is, if you don't know who Calvin Harrison Jr. is, look up Waves, look up The Trial of Chicago 7, look up Cyrano, look up Xavier, look up Luce. He is a very talented young man, and I think that they're pairing together, and him also nailing a British accent. he is just the ultimate character breaker in this movie to me. Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because as much as I love Mufasa and I love his integrity, I think that watching the progression of who Scar becomes was so engaging. And I think it allowed all the other surrounding themes that were happening, the threats, the families, the loss, the gains, to make it all the sacrifice mean something. And I think that their voice acting and their connection, it made it work. But the other thing is, and I looked it up, I made sure, because I was listening to the soundtrack on the way home too, they all sung all their songs.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, even down to Keith. Well, I don't know if I can spoil that. Let's just say Keith David is in this movie and he blows. Like he crushed it. But what did you guys think about the voice acting talent and the progression of the story in terms of the characters?
Yeah, no, I think all of them did a spectacular job, and I do agree with you. I think that Mufasa and Scar, the actors behind them were the perfect yin to the yang for each other. Because there were some scenes where you have to have certain chemistry and certain, I guess, just such a good rapport to be able to kind of bounce off the way that they were doing. So either when you're hearing Aaron or when you're hearing Kelvin, it very much shows that, and it shows this closeness between both of them. And I do agree, because throughout the movie you see these two characters take two very different roads to end up where they end up, and you almost even hear it in their voices. Like you can see it in the characters, when they're progressing and they're evolving to, like, kind of like their final stage type of thing. But it's fascinating even hearing it in their voices. Like, you hear the triumphs or the regrets or the sorrow, or just what they're going through. It's just, I think that they did a fabulous job in this one, for sure.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, these guys are become a very interesting dynamic duo. And you clearly see it, yeah, there. Obviously started from MLK and the Malcolm X, and as they're evolving with this story, I'm very intrigued to see their future, just turns this industry together. Because we also see pairings like that throughout, um, this industry and everything like that. So like where actors work well with each other, and stuff. But again, I really, especially with Kelvin, was the one that really surprised me, because again, this for a non Black American, or let me clarify that, a non British
You're right.
non-British African American, right? To do a English accent very well, but in real time, just shift just like that to evolve, And I totally forget, like, wait, he just talked like something like this 2 seconds ago, and then you just instantly, like, I knew the exact moment when he turned, and I looked at Sam, was like and also there's a great animation. If you watch the first movie, you just know the mannerism, even the physicality of Scar. And then when he becomes that from where he is originally, how you see the shift in real time. I was like, wait, yeah, there is. Just like with Megatron in Transformers 1, when his eyes turn red after after he beat Starscream in that movie and everything. And I was like, instantly, the moment when he shifts. And I think that was like good directing. But in terms of voice, I think he did a very good job with this. But again, Aaron as well, yeah, again, he's becoming a consistently well actor, and I'm very intrigued to see his future in terms of future roles that he do that are iconic. So yeah, but I'm happy for both of them.
Yeah, and again, this is a really stacked cast. I mean, they've got everybody. They've got Keith David. I mean, technically every actor that was from the original is back. Beyonce's daughter is this one. Blue Ivy Carter plays a role of Kiara. It's a very stacked cast, but I think the newcomers make this even more natural. Like Lenny James plays Scar's dad. I mean, they've got Thuso. Man, I forget how to pronounce her last name. Mabito. She was in The Woman King. There was a lot of great talent in this one, and I was impressed by everybody. I didn't think there was a bad voice acted talent, and I don't feel like they were phoning in, because there's not a way of phoning it in. Like, this is something that kind of came authentic from out of nowhere. But what I'll tell you, if I'll say that, Scar's, character progression was my favorite, I would also say Rafiki's story. They did
Yes.
something real special with Rafiki, and they used two different versions. They used, of course, our Black Panther's father, and then they also used a newcomer that played a young Rafiki. His name is Kagoso Ladiga. He played a role of Rafiki, and he killed it. Like the way that they handle Rafiki's story, it almost makes the full thing go full circle. And I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I feel like every small little connection to the Lion King universe was tributed in this. They paid homage to it in some way, shape, or form. If you looked at the series, like Lion King series, if you've looked at the Lion King movies, not just the first one, but others, they place some kind of tribute and connection to it in some way, shape, or form. And I thought that was so tactful that Barry would even do it that way. But I don't know. What were some of the thoughts you had, closing thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I think Rafiki's story, it was interesting because we did a review with my kids right before this one, and it was very unique seeing their take on who was most impactful for them. And for me, it was Rafiki. I thought his storyline and the way that they did it was great, and even his musical number that he had. I think it's like "We Go Together" or something like that, or something like that. Such a great song, like, and just the meaning behind the song, and when you put that within the actual point in the movie where you have these strangers converging into one, and it's just his story was just so well done in terms of how they incorporate it. Yeah, no, I think for me, he was probably, from my point of view, one of the most impactful characters. And then, as always, I'm a sucker for like villain stories. So, like, if they were to do an entire movie just on Scar, like, I would love it. I think the way that they were able to portray him and show him kind of grow into who he becomes, it would be so fascinating to almost like hear his thoughts throughout the movie, almost like him narrating it instead, or maybe hearing it from like his father's point of view. Like, I just think something like that would be so neat. Not needed at all, but very neat.
Oh, I forgot. There's another actor that plays a very villainous role that we have not talked about, and that's Mads Mikkelsen's character.
Yeah.
He he was a very interesting character and a very dark threat, and everything that he connects with, everything he does. I think this is the weird thing. The difference that I take from Transformers 1 versus this film, Mads Mikkelsen's character, who's very much so a villain, leaves a more lasting impression for me, and at the same time seems a lot more memorable than whatever the main villain or archetype for the Transformers 1, which is weird because as good as Transformers 1 is, I'll never forget this white line that's in this film. Like the way that they handle his character and what he does, what he's for, what he's about, you got the full grasp of it. Now, it's kind of like you love to hate him, but Mads Mikkelsen is a beast. And that was an even weird thing because he was playing an American character. Yeah. Like, I didn't get a taste of any kind of accent or anything. I was like, and he's singing too. Yeah, that was one thing I forgot to add in. But go ahead, Mike. Closing thoughts.
I think that with this is like, I felt with his character, it kind of like they position him in a way that, again, there's a lot of metaphors and analogies. If you want to look too deep into it, you could. And hey, you could think like, oh, that's interesting. In terms of but yeah, I'll move on from there. But yes, I would just say that I felt his trajectory terms, these characters, particularly with Scar. Again, you want to know, like, hey, what was the villain before he became the villain, right? And also, what was his influences too of how he, well, in terms of how he represents the leading of pride or leading of people, and stuff out of revenge, and stuff out of betrayal and all that stuff, right? And again, those things you feel like, regardless of who you are, like that spirit, that type of entity, you as a character trait that's been existent with many different characters for years. And so it's just kind of interesting to see that in just terms of the different type type of character like this one here. But again, I think he did a very good job. His song was, I still need to look back at his song that he has in this movie. I thought that was funny though. But and also, like I said, even like when serious moments happen, they still remind you, hey, these are kids. There's some kids watching this movie, so some scenes they won't focus on. Like, hey, we know what happened here, right? So yeah, because we're in the jungle here, So
Yeah.
yeah.
This is the interesting thing. Out of every Lion King movie that they've ever done, whether it's live action or animated, most of the romantic scenes or romantic songs, are just romantic songs. The one romantic song they had in this is a very specific one that changes the trajectory of how even the story moves. And I think each one of the voice actors do a great job singing them and acting in them, because certain characters' voice start to change and shift, the dynamics shifts and change. And I was just really impressed how they handled that. But yeah, let's go ahead and final thoughts as far as what did our lasting review? What do we give this rating? A to F. Jorge.
Final thoughts on this. I actually loved it. I was very impressed with it. Something that I will say, and I think it was you, Mike, who brought this up earlier when we were chatting about this right here in the review. So I was able to see this with my kids, and it was so fascinating talking to them after the movie, and like us doing our own little review on it, and just kind of hearing their thoughts on this movie. And I think, Mike, you brought up a really good point where you said you can watch this and kids can understand what's happening and adults can understand what's happening in many different levels. And I think that for me, this is one of those movies where everybody will get something from it, and you will see very clearly, like, you can have very intense, deep conversations about this movie and what, like how certain characters interacted, what happened with them, to the point where, like an elementary school kid can have them and grown adults can have them. Overall though, I mean, I would rate this easily, like a B plus. There wasn't much flaw in it. I think the if I could switch something in this, I would say it's probably the release date. I would have probably switched this with Moana, just to give this a little bit more runtime to get, just a better landing spot than it did. Because now being at the end of the year, I don't know how well this will do in the box office, but that would be my only thing is I wish they would have done this one a little bit better in terms of shooting it out a little bit earlier. But other than that, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed myself from start to finish in this movie, and I mean, I hate saying it like this, but it's like I think the music in this will stick with people for many years to come, where you'll have some people, like my generation grew up with, like, oh, I can't wait to be king, and all these other songs, like Akuna Matata and all that stuff. And I can see my kids jamming out to some of the songs that were in this movie, and these songs actually being impactful for them. So yeah, no, for me, solid B plus for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, I'll give this a B plus. I'll say, I mean, I have a lot of films that I really enjoyed this year, but this I kind of feel is, if I had top 10, this would probably be around maybe a 9 or 10 or so. I got to debate when I make my list. But I think again, this is a film that I feel like my time was not wasted. I feel like I will watch this movie again. And also I feel like, for kids, they should watch this movie again as well with, parents as well. Yeah, I give this a solid B plus. The performances, the voice acting for this, and again, Reliance. Even though I've been kind of musical out this year, I'll say that again. Even though the music wasn't the strongest suit for this film, it wasn't the intention or the priority. The priority was the story, and when that point it delivered. So I give that a B plus. But yeah, this is a win, Disney, for this one.
Yeah, for me, it's a B plus. It's an easy B plus. I think I might have one song that I felt like could have been like taken out, and it just could have been more of a different bass scene. Certain moments where it was going in and out, like I was kind of like, this is drawing a little bit longer than it needs to be. But at the end of the day, the movie is not for me specifically. But from what they gave me, this was a triumph. And I think this is the weirder thing to me to say. And I don't know if you guys agree or not. I feel like when I get this film and I'm gonna buy this film, I may end up doing like a double feature. I may end up watching this and then watching the live action version because I feel like now having watched this, it feels like the the 2019 version feels like more palatable. I want to go back and look at the
Yes.
2019
Yeah.
version to kind of see, visually the same conception, and it's the same exact actors, the same exact leads, and so even if they decided to do like something crazy, like make a third one, like I would follow along because the way that way that Barry handled this, I think he used so much care that it adds to whatever they tried to do with that 2019 version. So it's just uncanny. And I thought I would never look at that 2019 version again. And they're gonna probably bring it out, unfortunately. But yeah, this is absolutely a B plus for me, and I can't wait to watch it again with my wife for sure. But you guys, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Jorge, where can everybody find your content?
Well, you can definitely find me here. Stay tuned for the start of the year. We're going to try something a little bit different. I'll be kind of joining up with my kiddos and having a gaming channel for my son, and me and my daughter may be doing a fun-filled, like daddy-daughter reviews on certain movies. And then I'll also be popping up and doing more. I say doing more, but starting up a Spanish only like reviews. So reviews just all in Spanish. So be on the lookout for that because I think 2025 is going to be a good year for that one.
YouTube Shorts, guys. Hold on to your butts. All
Ooh,
right. Mike, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube and on Instagram, TikTok, if it doesn't go away in January 9th. At Jedi Mike 7, I got a ton of videos, reviews, and interviews are coming out this week and stuff. I got a long list. I'm trying to meet a deadline of criteria and everything, but I'm almost there. I just got to get through it. Got like 12 days left out of the year or so like that. But yeah, you can find me there on YouTube. I also just started writing, for news articles and stuff. So I've started writing. Yeah. And I didn't think at the end of the year I would do something that I absolutely hate. And I was like, hey, challenge yourself, push yourself to a skill that you felt like you couldn't do before. But the reason why, because you haven't tried, do it. So yes. But yeah, you can find me here also on JVS as well. So make sure you subscribe.
Yes, sir. And you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, but you can best believe all of our interviews are going to be up there. All of our anime reviews are going to be up there. But then you can always be here with us for YouTube and our other social medias to be able to check out our normal baseline reviews for everything and all things. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're gone. Go check out Mufasa. It's dope.
Yes.
All right.
Amazing.